basically, since it came to fruition. No real new pickups for Harlan. His deck looks pretty similar to how it's looked in the past, but Matthew Dilks, 4 copies of Once Upon a Time, and I get it. This is the card that Amulet has absolutely been missing. Thrilled to pick up this card to fill in all the flex slots.
Yeah, so Amulet had previously been playing
Trinket Mage, sometimes. You'd occasionally see, like, Oath of Nissa.
Yeah. These other spells that...
Bad cantrips, basically.
Yeah. They were trying to get the job done, but compared to a free dig for 5, not in the same ballpark.
Yep, that turns out that's a little bit better. Sounds like Harlan is on a mulligan this game. I believe Dilks kept 7. So, Craig, when we wrapped up the last round, we promised metagame data. Didn't have a lot of time to do it, so I'm just going to leak some tidbits. And
no, we lied to them.
No, we don't lie here. Everything we say on this SCG tour is completely honest and forthright. Always trust the people speaking to you on the SCG tour. And what I would now want to trustworthily tell you is that Bangolos dominated standard 13 copies, so it's not greater than 50%.
Yeah, not 50%, but right there.
Right.
We said there were 28 decks, so we would needed 14 of these. 28 teams, I'm sorry.
Right.
So we would need 14 Golos decks to be half of the field.
Got close. Meanwhile, over in this matchup, Harlan has put together Thopter Sword already. In short order.
Yeah, powerful strategy, but this is not where you want to be in this matchup.
No, it can get outscaled, and Dilks has been able to find an Amulet of Vigor, has 2 lands on the battlefield right now. And this is where Dilks wants to start to make things happen. Can he do so? Dilks doing a pretty good job of hiding that grip from us. Don't know exactly what he's working with now. I think I see a Summoner's Pact. I see an Azusa.
Yeah, I think if he has a Karoo here, he's going to be able to Azusa into a Titan, right?
Let me do a little bit of math for you. One short?
One short, okay.
One short. But I bet Dilks can find something to do.
Even if he just positions himself next turn, you know, sometimes this deck sets up the kill 1 turn in advance.
Right, and you're not super scared of Amulet Titan, or excuse me, of Wurza just making a bunch of Thopters on their next turn. That isn't really damning unless they go infinite. That's what's scary. Here's Selesnya Sanctuary, going to untap due to Amulet of Vigor.
Oh, he's double Azusa, it looks like.
Well, that's interesting. Okay. Going to return this Sanctuary to hand. Plays Azusa number 1. Here's the second land drop for the turn.
I like this.
Harlan has a fine response in the form of Galvanic Blast, and it comes at a good time. This is the spot where you really need to pick off that Azusa with the Selesnya Sanctuary trigger on the stack. That is going to get the job done. Azusa bites it. Selesnya Sanctuary untaps, returns. Question mark. Sanctuary again. Taps 3 mana, plays the second Azusa, and just ships the turn back to Harlan. Harlan finds an island off the top, plays Urza, makes infinite Thopters, and that is going to do it. Harlan Führer takes down game 1 against Matthew Dilks. Was that a decent draw? Let's think about it. Turn 2, Thopter Foundry. Turn 3, deployed Sword with Mox Opal. Had the removal spell for the Azusa. Turn 4, draw Urza, play it, win the game.
Yeah, he might have had the Urza and drawn the land that he needed there. But either way, yeah, once you have the Sword and the Thopter Foundry and Urza, you get to make infinite Thopters, produce infinite mana, gain infinite life.
Sounds pretty good to me.
It's a pretty powerful effect.
Yeah, good stuff there from Harlan Führer, and you see exactly why Harlan has fallen in love with this deck. Urza's not going anywhere, still very much in the top tier of Modern, no matter what Throne of Eldraine has offered into the mix. Let's take a look at Harlan's sideboard here, see what he might want to get up to. You see 4 copies of Thoughtseize, 3 Assassin's Trophy, 2 Fatal Push, 2 Tezzeret, Agent of Bolus, 2 Collective Brutality, a Nature's Claim, and a Damping Sphere. Craig, what do you want to do if you're Harlan?
I'm in love with a lot of these cards here.
A lot of good answers.
I love the Thoughtseize. That's the early interaction that you need against this matchup.
Right.
So the Thoughtseize are great. I like the Assassin's Trophy a lot. It's a versatile card that can blow up Titans, but often it's just great to go after a Karoo early in the game.
Right.
And it can get the Amulet off of the board, too, if you feel like that's the big thing that you need to get off the board. I would also bring in the Nature's Claim, just because I feel it's such a race in the matchup, and Amulet of Vigor is that important.
Okay. I like that approach. And you know that Damping Sphere are going to do work in this matchup for sure. Meanwhile, over on Dilks' side, you see 3 Dismember, 2 Force of Vigor, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Obstinate Baloth, a Field of the Dead, a Ramanap Excavator, Tireless Tracker, Cavern of Souls, Hornet Queen, Engineered Explosives. Craig, what do you think you want to do if you're on Dilks' side?
So the Force of Vigor is the starting point. That's the easy one, right? You just want these cards in your deck. I like the Engineered Explosives a lot. Often you just play it for 0 and you just clean up all their free mana. Mm-hmm. You get the Thopters off the board if that's what you need to do. So I like bringing that card in. I don't know if there's a lot of other cards that I want here. Yeah, they're just not super tempting. I think that you still want to be doing what you do as fast as possible. And that's one of the reasons the Force of Vigor is so tempting, because it's a potential free spell while you still use all your mana to execute your game plan.
Yeah, if it's free, it's me, and I'm all about those Force of Vigors in this matchup, to be sure. I'll tell you, Craig, the resurgence of Amulet Titan has me very, very excited right now. Maybe it's time I take myself to an invitational qualifier. I'll just book a flight from Seattle to the East Coast, find my nearest invitational qualifier, and hop into the action. $1,000 going to the top 8, so if I win, I might even make my plane ticket back. But I will get an invitational qualification, which I can't use because you and I will be commentating at the invitational. But still, this seems like a win all around for me to be playing these invitational qualifiers. Of course, those valuable SCG points, you get a top 8 playmat, and those beautiful personality tokens. Get your hands on a Ryan Overturf, a Todd Anderson, a Nick Miller, a Patrick Sullivan, or perhaps a Matthias Hunt. If you need more information on our IQs, head over to go.starcitygames.com/IQ. Jealous that you still get to play IQs, Craig.
Are you?
I am.
Move to Jersey.
Pass. I'm not a Jersey hater. I think Jersey has a lot of nice areas. I hate when people frown on a place globally and just like, oh, New Jersey. No, there's parts of New Jersey that are fantastic. Well, absolutely.
Of course you hate it, because you know that New Jersey is definitively the best state.
That is not where I was going.
We all know this to be true. People like to pretend like there's a bunch of problems, but ultimately we all know it's Jersey or bust.
I was going to say I think I already live in the best place and am not incentivized to move anywhere. But
yeah, how many IQs do you get?
Okay, you got me there. I really have no response for that. No IQs out in Seattle.
We'll let Patrick Sullivan break the tie.
As long as Cedric Phillips can also weigh in, then I'm okay with this.
All right.
So it's still a tie, is what you were saying. We know this is going nowhere.
We'll see.
You think Cedric is going to be on New Jersey's side in this debate?
Oh, New Jersey's great.
I don't even like there's a lot of good things about New Jersey, but
there are a lot of good things, and then there's a lot of great things.
Okay. Completely non-biased Craig giving his opinion of New Jersey. I know, like me, you've lived a bunch of places.
I have. I've traveled a good bit in my life. And ultimately, I came back to New Jersey. So what's that tell you?
I can't dispute that. You are, in fact, there. Players drawing their 7s here. No results from the other matches yet, as far as we can tell. Turns out when you just blow up your opponent on turn 4 with Infinite Thopters, doesn't take all that long.
Yeah, that was quick.
Both players going to take a mulligan here. Not particularly damning in a format like Modern.
Well, yeah, and both these decks are trying to do very specific things.
Correct. And like you said, they're racing against each other at this point.
Yep. They're both very fast at doing those things, so we'll see players be pretty aggressive with their mulligans.
That's exactly right. Another Golos mirror going on over in Standard. You see Sultai Golos in the hands of Zach Allen taking on Jonathan Rossum's Bant Golos. We saw Zach Allen's list, I believe, round 1. Seemed very tuned for the mirror. And if Zach has found a lot of success playing against Golos, there's no surprise that his team is doing well today. Like we said, 13 out of 28 decks. Bant Golos. Meanwhile, over in Modern, looks like one of the most balanced formats we've seen in a long time. 4 copies of Paradoxical Outcome Urza, most popular deck, but it's tied with Amulet Titan. 4 copies of Amulet Titan. Those two make up the 2 most popular decks in the room. And then we have a little bit of everything going on from there. Legacy. Looks like Teamer Delver starting to pull away from the pack. 11 copies of Teamer Delver over in our Legacy field.
Yeah, but you see a good bit of variety even among the Teamer Delver decks. We saw Oko make an appearance. We were commenting on how Noah Walker has shifted his list a good bit in a different direction. And so even among the Teamer Delver decks, there is room for creativity and exploration.
I think that's exactly right. Second place, Jeskai Mentor. 4 copies of that deck. Looks like Fear are going to go down to 5 here. Dilks content to keep 6. It's funny, they swapped in Rossum for Edgar. Rossum also an Amulet player, so they continued the theme of everyone can weigh in on the Amulet deck if they so choose. I think they found a good replacement. Like we said, no drama to report amongst this team breakup of Magiesh, Dilks, and Ayers.
The more you say it, the more it sounds like there's drama.
There really isn't. I'm doing that thing where I'm telling you the truth poorly, and I can't illustrate that I really mean it.
No, I really want to convince you of this thing.
No, just some scheduling. Dilks and Ayers weren't sure they were going to come. Edgar found another team for himself, and then they were able to make it. Do have our first result from another match. Drake Sasser up a game against Daryl Ayers. Jeskai Mentor over Teamer Delver in game 1. So Harlan going to try and cobble together 5 useful cards here. Sees one he just hates. Absolutely disgusted by that one card.
Yeah, sometimes there's an easy decision, and it gets a little more difficult after that.
You see the head shake. Now Harlan's not sure. He wants to check in, get an opinion from Zach. All right, we have found our 5 cards. Dilks going to just start with a tapped Castle Garenbrig, another new addition to this deck from Throne of Eldraine.
Yeah, when all you're trying to do is get to 6 mana, a land that ramps you from 5 to 6 is pretty good.
Seems pretty good. Castle Garenbrig, of course, best friends with Primeval Titan. Ancient Stirrings for Dilks. Don't think there were a ton of options there. Is just going to go ahead and play the Simic Growth Chamber. Passes the turn back to Führer. His hand looks pretty slow from Dilks.
Yeah, and this is where if you have an Assassin's Trophy, you just love it, right?
Right.
You know your opponent's got this pretty clunky, slow start, and you're able to set them back on a land. It's huge.
Looks like the play is going to be Pithing Needle here from Harlan. We will figure out exactly what that's naming in just a moment. Pithing Needle is on Engineered Explosive. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I like it.
And here's a Gemstone Mine from Dilks. I think he just found that Gemstone Mine off the top. And that means going to get 2 more land drops on this turn. First one, Castle Garenbrig. Second one, but it's a bounce land.
Karoo!
It is going to get that Gemstone Mine back in hand. And now, Dilks with access to 6 mana. Does he have the Primeval Titan payoff? Harlan going to do a bit of fetching here. Steam Vents is the grab. 3 mana tapped. It's War of Invention. And it's time for a Damping Sphere. Could slow things down a bit on Dilks' side.
Need to tap those artifacts for the whir.
Right. Unlikely to matter, but we'll be sure to correct if anything happens. There we go. Our tap now.
Ooh, and look who's getting frisky.
Azusa on the beatdown plan. Very aggressive play from Azusa. Harlan's hand has come together very nicely here.
Yeah, it really has. That Damping Sphere is just huge on this board.
Yeah.
And the Pithing Needles are also just super important.
Yeah, it would be pretty trivial to blow up that Damping Sphere. Let's get a hand of Engineered Explosives, Sakura Tribe Scout, and not quite sure on the last card. Oh, it is a Primeval Titan as the last card in hand. Means that Damping Sphere was very timely. Sphere would have been in for a world of hurt this turn. Just going to go ahead and deploy Engineered Explosives on 2. I think there's a bit of a mana mishap there.
Well, they're saying you got to pay the tax on the Damping Sphere, I think is what the discussion was there.
Right. Also the colors as well, to be able to get to 2 Sunbursts, because Damping Sphere, of course, shutting down those Karoo lands.
Yep.
But I do think we had to untap Gemstone Mine as well as Castle Garenbrig to make
exactly.
some different colors.
And then use the Gruul Turf to pay the tax.
Yep. Harlan fetching again. Leads me to believe he's got another play here. What is it? It's the big one. It's Urza. Going to bring a Construct with him. Now we're going to cast Arkham's Astrolabe, paying the tax via Urza's activated ability. And Harlan just going to pass the turn over to Dilks. Feels like Harlan's advantaged right now. Dilks draws the Cavern of Souls.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, needed that to be able to deploy this Titan. Of course, naming Giant, and that means this Primeval Titan certainly going to enter the battlefield. 2 triggers. Got to figure out what to get here.
Yeah, this is an awkward spot against the Damping Sphere.
This is a tough decision, and I don't have an answer for you. I don't know what Dilks is going to get. I don't even want to guess. I just want to see what he comes up with.
Sure. Yeah, normally you would set up the chain of tutoring for more Titans here.
Right. That's tough.
He doesn't have access to the blue in order to tutor.
Yep. Yeah, no transmuting Talaria West unless you have enough blue mana, and only the Gemstone Mine right now. That Gemstone Mine also running low on counters.
Yeah, and you know, this deck often wants the Karoo lands in order to return the Gemstone Mine.
I thought this might be the approach. Field of the Dead. Going to be the first card grabbed by Dilks. It's going to have a hard time keeping pace with that Urza, though.
We'll see. I mean, if Harlan on the other side doesn't have anything else to go with his Urza, he's basically just using almost all of his resources to activate it once a turn. It's kind of like an extra draw step.
Right.
Oh,
you see a head shake from Dilks. Like I said, this is a tough puzzle to figure out. My instinct is Field of the Dead, but the problem is I don't actually believe Field of the Dead to be good enough. So Dilks is instead going to set up for his next turn. Going to try and get a rebuy on that Talaria West via the Primeval Titan triggers. And bouncing that land to hand could be tough.
Yeah, he has the Scout.
That helps. Yeah, these turns are about to get murky, Craig. These are going to be those puzzle turns that Amulet Titan players love so much.
We love it.
I will say probably nobody you'd rather have solving those puzzles than Dilks and his teammates, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I wonder if the Wurza deck's going to be able to find another lock piece here.
To really complicate the issue?
Yeah, I mean, certain things don't win you the game, but something like Ensnaring Bridge just makes it so hard for the other player to do anything.
Of course. Look like Thopter Foundry, Mishra's Bauble in hand for Harlan. Debating whether to Urza activate now. Is going to go ahead and do that. So we will deal with this awkward templating where everyone gets to shuffle a little bit. You understand why it exists.
Yes.
It is a little silly, though. Reveal Thopter Foundry. All right, I'll cast that. Twist my arm. Harlan's like, I could have done that already.
I believe we have to pay a tax for that, don't we?
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I think he paid it.
Yeah, and here's Bauble.
2 points of tax on that one.
Correct. All of this coming from Damping Sphere, of course. Harlan thinking about whether to get frisky with that Matthias Hunt token.
Yeah, I almost want to leave it on defense. I don't want... You know, the opponent can just block with their 1/1 that isn't too effective right now. Maybe the 1/1's important. It's a way for Dilks to have access to multiple blue every turn.
Yeah, just letting that Primeval Titan attack over and over, though, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You want to make Dilks pay for it if he's going to send in. All right, now Dilks has a few things he needs to figure out on this turn. He needs to get blue mana. Probably needs to get another Titan.
Yes.
Maybe he wants to start addressing some of these problematic artifacts.
Yeah, so he has a Karoo.
Summoner's Pack, step 1.
Okay, this is a good start.
Yeah, nice draw.
Yeah, because if he had to do this through the Talaria West first, it would have been pretty awkward path to take.
Reclamation Sage is the grab here.
Oh, and the tax is going to add up quick here, too.
It does. It's going to be tough to accomplish much on this turn. But assume we're going to blow up this Pithing Needle.
Yep, it's going to turn into a Thopter.
And that means this Titan may be able to get up some shenanigans. There goes the Engineered Explosives.
More Thopters coming.
Yep. Urza's a silly Magic card.
Oh, it's crazy. But you have to wonder if the house of cards is going to come tumbling down now. Because Dilks is set up with tons of lands, and he's going to have even more mana at his disposal next turn. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a chain of 2 or even 3 Titans come down next turn.
Yeah, I mean, Dilks is also trying to figure out, like, how do I lose this game from this point? He's thinking 2 to 3 turns in advance and trying to cover all of the backdoor outs that Harlan may have from this position. But you're exactly right. Next turn is going to be completely unlocked. Also going to get some zombies into the mix with Field of the Dead. Another result over in our Legacy matchup. Tied up at 1 game apiece. Meanwhile, 25 minutes into Standard, nobody's won a game in the Golos Mirror. Or do you find that amusing, Craig?
What a delight. I'm sure that the battlefield is very clean there.
Right.
The decisions are easy.
Field of the Dead and Bojuka Bog. The grabs for Dilks. Like I said, Dilks being contemplative about how he could get punished, what could go wrong. Bojuka Bog, a very defensive option here.
Yeah, and with a Karoo in his hand, he has the option of, Bojuka Bogging every turn if he wants to.
Right. So that Primeval Titan is going to eat it.
All right, and he's just going to make a bunch of land drops with the Karoo, bouncing it back to his hand over and over.
Yep. Yeah, a little bit of a value engine working for Dilks. Harlan draws an Astrolabe. Looks like he's Thopter Foundry flooded right now.
Really does look that way, yeah.
Now we count our artifacts. I'm going to cast a Mishra's Bauble. Speaking of messy battlefields, this one is well on its way to getting there.
Yeah, but next turn it could all just be resolved.
Mm-hmm. Here's an Urza activation. Yeah, that's one of the things I've noted about Standard is that there are these huge engines, right? And they overwhelm the game and make it just tremendous. But they do so incrementally. So they have to scale up across many, many turns.
He's done it.
Looks like here's a Goblin Engineer.
He has the Urza, he has the Thopter Foundry, he has the Engineer.
This looks like Infinite Thopters to me, and that is going to get a handshake from Dilks.
Wow.
That means Harlan Fear with a perfect reveal from Urza.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of good cards that he could hit there.
Sure, but none better.
But that one just closed out the game instantly.
Yeah, pretty incredible stuff there from Harlan. If Dilks sets it up so he has Bojuka Bog in hand, is there a window to play around that? There just isn't, right?
There's not. So Harlan had access to enough mana,
right,
to where he could just activate the Thopter Foundry, getting the sword back in response to the Bojuka Bog ability.
So Bojuka Bog does nothing there.
It's very hard to break that up because the Sword of the Meek it's so cheap to get it back onto the battlefield when they try to interact with your graveyard.
Right. So Dilks going to fall to Harlan Fear's 4-color Urza. As we mentioned, Harlan very much in contention for the top of that leaderboard. Thrilled to be marching a step closer towards the top 8, but needs to rely on his teammates to get some work done.
Well, and right behind him in the standings is Bertarioni, who's very high in our standings as well.
Correct. Of course, can't forget about Dylan Donegan, also putting up a very strong performance today. A lot of activity among those players at the top of our leaderboard. I think what you're watching right now is Drake Sasser getting together a hand, Daryl Ayers getting together a hand, and that means we're going to head over to our Legacy match. Skip that Golos match where I can see so many. There's a full graveyard.
Yeah.
There's permanents everywhere.
Look at the smiles. They can't be having this much fun. Playing standard. Get out of here.
I actually think the matches are a lot of fun to play. I know they get bogged down. I know they're silly. I enjoy them right now. I won't enjoy them forever. I'll tell you that.
I was going to say, I think in rounds 1 through 4, you kind of enjoy them.
Right.
Once you're in round 12 and you're playing your 8th or 9th mirror, it gets to be a bit much.
Right. Are you familiar with the Alliances card, Diminishing Returns, Craig? It was about this exact situation.
That's why they printed it? They knew this was coming.
They knew it was coming.
Alliances. Look at you dating yourself.
Oh, I've been around, Craig. Been around for a lot of expansions. I was there day one when Alliances came out, hoping, praying I would crack a Balduvian Horde. There was nothing.
It's so funny.
I wanted more on the planet than just one Balduvian Horde.
Cards like that. When I look back at cards like that,
it's crazy.
You know, Savannah Line's up there where it gets reprinted in a master set as a common.
Right.
And it's just like...
It's like, oh, I love this card.
Yeah, what has happened?
What are you doing to my childhood right now?
Well, my big one was Urza's Rage.
Okay, yeah.
I remember when I was just trying to get... I don't remember if it was my second or my third, but I just wanted one more Urza's Rage, but they were expensive.
So expensive.
And everyone wanted them, so I couldn't get it. And now you can open a pack and it's an uncommon.
Right. Jester's Cap, another card which has not scaled particularly well that I wanted desperately.
Jester's Cap was a weird one because even when it was first printed, it was very expensive and didn't see that much play.
Yeah, so I played blue-white control even back then, and your primary concern was Felden's Cane because you won via Millstone. You couldn't let that happen. You needed Jester's Cap to go get Felden's Cane.
But it was usually just a one of in the decks.
Yeah.
And many of the
Small
decks
numbers.
didn't play it at all.
Correct.
That was a card that was always a little bit strange to me in that it was so expensive and did not see that much play.
Well, that's true. Things didn't make a lot of sense back then.
Oh. I mean, you could pick up dual lands for pretty cheap.
Of course. Well, as much as I would love to continue this episode of Craig and Brian Talk About Old Magic Cards, there is a match going on, and it involves a flipped Insectile Aberration on Ayers' side, looking to put a little pressure down on Drake Sasser. Drake just developing mana over the first few turns.
Yep, I love this Pyroblast. It answers so many threats. Super cheap.
It is going to take a hit from the Delver here, though.
And we say it over and over, that the Astrolabe, we just can't stress enough how good this card is.
Yeah, no mana troubles ever.
No mana troubles, and Wasteland just isn't a card anymore against these decks.
Yep. I wonder if that plays on someone like Noah's decision to step away from Ren and 6 and lean harder on Stifle. Seeing mana denial as an important part of the game plan, but realizing Wasteland just isn't providing it in some situations.
Yep. Like I said, Noah's great at being just ahead of everyone else.
I agree with you. Here's a big play from Ayers. It's time for an attempt at Ren and 6. Does Sasser have a response? I see a Force of Will. A foil Force of Will, nonetheless.
Yeah, this is a pretty deck, huh?
That didn't exist back in the day. Is going to go ahead and pitch Snapcaster Mage to Force of Will, countering Ren and 6.
The foil double signature Snapcaster Mage.
Good stuff. And before we head back to Sasser's turn, is going to take the opportunity to Pyroblast that Delver. A lot of mana available here to Sasser. Fourth land just entered the battlefield.
Well, this is a good turn.
More basics. Thank you very much. Snow-covered plains.
Yeah, that whole exchange was just great for Sasser there. You get to successfully counter the opposing Ren and 6. When the opponent's missing land drops, that's huge. You got to get his only threat off of the board, and you're still developing your lands to deploy some of your more powerful cards as the game goes on.
So noteworthy, Sasser choosing to go ahead and fetch immediately. while Ayers was tapped low, wants to avoid Stifle. Very well played. Chooses not to cast anything, though. Had access to Palace Jailer, had access to Ponder. Could have played either. Chooses to play neither. Looks like a Snapcaster Mage in hand as well. And now...
Did he draw Blood Moon? Yes, he did.
Draw Blood Moon.
Oh, mama.
That's the KO punch.
Yes.
Does he just want to try and stick it here? Looks like the answer is yes. Red Elemental Blast, Brainstorm. Ayers going to cast that Brainstorm. 3 cards. Really wants to find an out. I don't think he did.
It's funny that they're deciding what cards to put on top. It doesn't really matter, right? If they're cards that you can't cast and you can't shuffle them away with a fetch land because of the Blood Moon, just put any 2 cards on your top of your deck.
I agree. Unlikely to matter. Now Sasser seeing his life total fall down to 7. The fear is the lightning bolts at this point. We know there's a Palace Jailer in hand for Sasser. Also drew a Swords to Plowshares. That's starting to feel like a pretty safe position. Here is Palace Jailer. Tarmogoyf going to leave. Draws a card from being the Monarch.
Yeah, let's get that Monarch. Yeah.
Get Andrew Jessup his credit. Another Arkham's Astrolabe. This game has turned decidedly in favor of Drake Sasser. Ayers going to need a real miracle to get out of this spot. Can you win with only red spells?
The answer's no.
Answer's almost always no.
I mean, sometimes, yeah, you can crawl across the finish line, but I think with Sasser's life total being at 7,
Swords to Plowshares in hand.
yeah,
Monastery Mentor coming down this turn.
Exactly. He's drawn 2 cards a turn. He's got the life total. He's got some threats on the board, so it's not like it's going to take him that long. Yeah,
and Ayers is just going to extend the hand, and that means the team of Sasser, Führer, and Zach Allen moves on to 10-2. This team also getting in prime position for a run at that top 8. And as we mentioned,